And I know how you die.
I know that I've given nothing but praise for this season, but this is something else. Not to say I came to this episode with low expectations, not at all, but just wow, man. We are talking about some of the best analysis, best animation, best thumbnail, best creativity, best cartoon themed episode, best My Little Pony themed episode, and just generally blows all the reality warper themed episodes out of the water. That's without getting to the ending, which for the 9th time this season has a lot to get into. But let's start from the beginning. I love how both analyses start by first establishing the world building and lore, then introducing the character, both times using the very first scenes followed by a maniacal laughter. But then in the ending beats highly contrast by describing Bill as the enemy of all that is holy, that we're grateful to be as far away from us as possible, while Discord's ending beat is about how much of a good guy he became and him playing with his newfound friends, a parody D&D game he himself manifested. The contrast being especially apparent in Bill describing his powers as, quote, anything that can make you uncomfortable, versus Discord just saying anything you can think of, what he can think of too. It's like the contrast between an edgelord and your silly goofy grandpa who loves to do magic tricks, except they both wield the fourth wall shadowing power, like Discord pulling a chowder on Wits and Broomstick, or Bill possessing the former and confirming his being in the last 3 season 10 episodes. I also really like the implication that Wit is a scientist on the same level as Stanford Pines, if he caught Bill's attention to begin with. The inclusion of various memes and in-jokes actually came off as funny, there's some amazing editing, and I really dug the emphasis on Gravity Falls townies that Bill ultimately underestimated was too late. It's kinda like focusing on a serial killer case and talking more about the victim rather than a serial killer, if that makes sense. Also, there's a Rick and Morty reference.
Ugh.
There's a reference to Star Trek.
It's alright.
There's also an Helsing reference. We get a very casual low drop of Broomstick now having a daughter. That's awesome, dude. Also, yes, Fluttershy is best pony. Not in the fandom anymore, but very little will change that fact. Speaking of change, Discord directly gets into the chorus faces, and he made it exactly like the first fourth wall breaking in the show was the first time around, something Discord gladly takes shots at. Much like how Bill takes shot at Discord, quote, not having loved ones left for long, which either references how he canonically outlived all of his pony friends, or what is about to happen in the fight right now. Right off the bat, this battle between apocalyptic goofballs starts with a very dark setup. Bill Cipher already unleashed with Mageddon to Equestria, spreading his hellish playground of pain and monsters to an entire civilization who never saw anything like this coming. As he sits on a throne made of innocent petrified ponies, turned the main cast into Phantom Zone banners, and used the two most powerful beings in the verse besides Discord as armchairs. Yeah, as this setup alone goes to show, underneath all the wackiness, Bill means business. Discord has its own establishing moment as well, flying to the banners like when he first flew to stained glass in his show's introduction, as he sadly caresses best friend Fluttershy, while still trying to brush off the idea of him having friends. They count by association. In a few seconds, we're perfectly established to a genocidal maniac disgusted at the mere idea of friendship, and a prideful spirit with people to actually mourn for in case the worst happen. Well, the worst is currently happening, so Discord trades the first blow with a barrage of sweets, yet leaving the Dream Demon rather sour. I swear, I'm not trying to praise every single second, I would love to, but I love the Discord shape he leaves on Bill's end. It feels more like a My Little Pony gag than a Gravity Falls one, you know? More silly Toon Force rather than horrific imagery. Ditto goes for the food fight sequence, really. In an episode that immediately goes all out more the Gravity Falls theme rather than a My Little Pony one, it's nice to see. Bill, however, decides to turn the parent filter off as he remembers as an existence-defying beast, so he glitches reality until the very concept of gravity falls on itself, trying to zap his Draconicos opponent and unleashing a wave of pony cameos, including fellow Dead Battle content creators, I could only get an idea of by looking at the wiki, so have fun. For a bit, Bill seems to actually have a semblance of genuine fun at his opponent's antics, before he gets turned into a Dorito by a gigantic Discord who's animated almost exactly like he is in the show, like wow. Like for a second I deadass thought this was recycled footage from how clean it looks, but no, they just went that extra mile. Look at that. I guess this is a good time as any to praise the accuracy in the voice actors as well, with both sounding almost identical to the actual counterparts more and more as the fight progresses.
You deserve a prize! Here, have a head that's always screaming!
Pasting all this bootleg merchandise together sure took a lot of glue.
Well, isn't this quite the combination of secondary characters? We're Twilight and the girls.
But there's an idea. Dear Princess Celestia, today Bill Cipher learned an important lesson about friendship.
Bill is in a fan though, so he blows him up with confetti, only for Disco to pop up next to him with a mocking laughter. And it took Bill's reaction as him realizing more and more what he's actually against, hence prompting the almighty multiple arms beating. The fight carries over in a madness bubble, prompting a streak of hostile shifts to give Popeye and Saitama a run for their money. This scene also working as a reference to Gravity Falls. By inclination, we can see the other fight to get his animation style in Kool-Aid Man vs Macho Man, Bill with a gun, and Bill mimicking that obscure astronauts game you might have heard about. Then in the Inkledot world, we can see both Bendy and Cuphead in the background, even a puppet sock scene, which references the dimension Discord or open a portal for to send Triager in that one time. Bill fires seal string at Discord, whose seemingly disgusted reaction is actually the end tearing through the mouth puppet to snap things back to reality. Or did he? Notice how they entered one of Bill's madness bubbles by the magic out of Discord's snap-made portal? Keep this in mind, it'll be important very shortly. In another scene that perfectly captures yet a similar yet contrasting nature, they both get bored of playing with their own action figures as Discord suggests playing a tabletop game together. But Bill replies with an actual attack by hitting Discord so hard that it squashes his physical form, which he took as a very passive-aggressive way of saying, I am fucking tired of your games. Now being a spirit of chaos in more literal fashion, Discord gets inside Bill's mind as we get this exchange.
You're messing with my mind? Oh, this is my shtick, you hack!
We may be evenly matched, Bill, but I've seen your show, my two-dimensional nuisance. And I know
How you die.
Oh, you think we're equals? That you're safe in here, you low-effort clown? I'm an all-seeing God!
Discord tries to replicate how Bill was defeated in his own series, similarly leaving out the crucial detail that Bill very much has a physical form and not just an astral one here, but we'll soon see what he actually meant. Also, side note, but that battle taking advantage of being not a Saturday morning cartoon and have things like Discord saying the word die or Bill directly calling himself a god, it works really well oddly enough. It just feels right. You know, like one of those things you know to be true despite no one really mentioning them out loud. This entire sequence not only is masterfully animated, but dripping with nightmarish imagery such as Bill punching his own eye to grab Discord, leaving a black and bleeding hole that he isn't even remotely bothered by from just how pissed at Discord he is at this point. Both the starting sequence and this entire scene perfectly capture just how terrifying Bill can be. One in a more show don't tell way and the other in a more show don't forget to change your pants later way. Speaking of subtlety, after calling himself a god, Bill turns his own eye into a stained glass window. You know, like a church. Clever Bill. Clever. Unfortunately not the clever as the fact that Discord technically won a few seconds ago. Look at the background after they emerge from the puppet dimension. There are no monsters, no menace bubbles, no fire. Just the X in the sky and Bill's pyramid. But the rest feels off. Almost like a cardboard. Almost like a setup.
it was worth a try. But still, I'm surprised you don't recognize your old home.
No. No!
Discord? Discord?
No. No! No, 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 no!
Oh, Bill.
No big deal. I've done this once already. Wanna make a deal?
They never actually came back to Equestria, as Discord had teleported them both into the Nightmare Realm, where Bill is not only unable to physically interact, let alone hurt anyone, but he gets to see the apocalypse brought being undone and every pony being safe and sound as the rift slowly closes in front of his eye. I don't think there are enough words to describe the sheer satisfaction in Bill's desperate nose as he realizes just how much is being played.
Seeing you powerless is like music to me.
You tell them, Charlotte. But the other side of the emotional spectrum, they really didn't have to dwell so much on Fluttershy quivering voice as she realizes her best friend vanished trying to save everyone. But they did. And let's just say I felt the presence of onion chopping ninjas in my room during this bit. Anyway, staying on the topic of emotional reactions though, the last words uttered by Discord were a ho ho well, followed by a mocking laughter that keeps echoing in void even after Bill squashes him into oblivion. Back to square one, this triangle's one reaction is to scream in rage before calming himself down, directing his attention to the viewers for yet another devilish deal. But his demeanor in the ending analysis goes to show he's not really getting any lucky to get anyone to summon him. I'm probably about to spend another eternity with no one to get mad at. Sure, I can yell at Wits and Boomstick, but 2 weeks from now they're just gonna talk about another character. On the Discord side of things, however, yeah, he died. And to be honest, I came in fully expecting him to Gigastone Bill due to the whole quote, Discord is powered by chaos and Bill is chaos. And as much as I hate to say this, I kinda see the reasoning for why this didn't happen. I failed to take in consideration how the exact same applies to Bill doing Widmageddon, his quantum precognition, which played a much bigger role than expected despite being just a statement, his whole deal about harming spirits, and he's literally finding a spirit of chaos, or his more straight to the kill nature, which funny enough in the animation itself was actually a disadvantage since Bill was so fixated on trying to kill Discord, he stopped paying attention to literally anything else around him. That's exactly what happens in both scenarios. Being outsmarted by a trickster motivated by feelings of sacrifice and friendship, not only incomprehensible to this sociopathic slice of cheesecake, but that he underestimated at an immense cost. Considering the immaculate way they handled this ending, and how Bill Players managed to be the only winner in the show history who technically didn't win anything, fully make up for Discord losing. He went out like an absolute goat, and as the text box shows, he will just reform later on as long as chaos itself exists. Granted, probably nowhere near fast enough to keep the battle going, or tragically enough, maybe not even fast enough to see Fluttershy within a lifetime again, hence the letter he started writing as soon as he got into the fight. Which also means is what he was planning to do this whole time, trolling Bill and hurting his ego just long enough for him to not realize he was being trapped in Nitron Realm, and that all his plans would be undone. It's only fitting for Discord to be the one to mess up the normal winner-loser dynamic this chaotically. Discordant Cipher as a title that definitely doesn't roll off the tongue as much as the already taken Cipher in Discord does, but the track itself is amazing. It's basically a rap battle between Discord and Bill, with various clever nods to both series, although much like the episode itself, there's an heavy emphasis on the Gravity Falls side of things, including a slowed down piano version of the theme song, and a hidden backwards message. Meant for viewers. And while we do hear Bill's laughter echoing as the last thing in the track, hinting that he would be winning, as we went over, he really didn't win much. So they're correct in a roundabout way, especially when Discord literally gets the last laugh. I would have liked more musical nods on the My Little Pony side of things, although the only thing I can think of for Discord being the famous fan song, which I'm not too sure how referencing that would work in terms of quote copyright, I don't know. But still, amazing track. I've been listening to it for like 7 times now, I don't know, I lost count. Now for the narrative theme. When I first went into this episode fully certain on Discord winning, I was thinking of something like embodying a concept versus being an agent of a concept, aka Bill being an agent of chaos while Discord conceptually tied to the very idea of chaos. But with the actual episode out, I had given thought and I gotta give all the merit to Jim's Cousins 9216 for this idea. Quote, I love how the fight scripts play out in ways that give homage to the both source material inspirations. Bill is a true to form Lovecraftian entity. You can't actually kill him, only seal him away at a great sacrifice. Likewise, Discord is much like the old classic trickster, someone who can mess with higher beings and make clever plans, but is ultimately not allowed that strong and more out to cause mischief than take over things, making them more like a main boss for heroes and victims for villains alike. I would also add that Bill's is very satanic in his execution, being all about fire, deal, possession, being hell on earth, and so forth. Whereas Discord is much more on the low-key side of things, with its penchant for mischief, shape-shifting, and even ignorance. So I'd say the narrative theme for Build Cipher vs Discord is, plain enough, Abomination vs Trickster. Wow man, just wow. This was one of the best crossover projects I've ever seen, period. But all the animation, visuals and music cannot be the only heroes here. The massive praise has to go also to the writing and absolute nailed accuracy in both characters, whether it's more subtle or blatant aspects. Same goes for this phenomenal ending where Discord still manages to put one massive prank on an all-seeing omnicidal maniac. Vader vs Obito still has that 11 out of 10 place in my heart. But this is a very strong contender for the number 1 spot for my favorite this season. Although to find out whether that's the case, you're gonna have to check out my ranking vid, so you know, wink wink, subscribe, wink wink. It goes without saying that I'm just equally excited for Cole vs Alex. I mean, I remember when this was just an idea floating around on DeviantArt, and now it's become an actual episode. And with how amazing the 2D winner turned out to be, being this episode, I can only imagine how much they're gonna go out in this season filled with the already 3 amazing 3D matchups. There's some very big shoes and expectations to fill, but I have faith that the team will work on another awesome episode. I'm also totally rooting and betting on Cole McGrath. I fell in love with the series ever since my mom bought me Infamous 2 when I was very little. Like, it's not even a comparison. That said, I'm Mark of Krypton and hope I made your day as happy as.